Well, good morning. It's the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living, Reverend Gay here. Let me begin our service this morning with the reading of the thought for the week. Life is interesting as it is complex and yet simple at its core. We're exploring the theme of self-mastery this month, and I've chosen wholeness as this week's topic. Our inner beings as humans is made up of various essential elements such as our consciousness, thoughts, emotions, feelings, and our ego. How we relate to our own inner self will dictate how we relate to all else on the outer in our life. They say life is all about perspective. I remember Julia Roberts' character in the movie Notting Hill so precisely telling her co-star Hugh Grant, it's all about perspective. Depending on our beliefs, habits, experiences, and core values, each and every person will access a given situation from their own perspective. One of the challenges we face as we grow in spiritual maturity is to surrender the dictates of the ego to a higher perspective. For at the center and core of everything is an infinite force that is running this universe and beyond, and quite frankly, it is well beyond our human understanding. Admitting this to be so allows us to soften our perspective. It allows us to stop and acknowledge that there can be a higher calling or reason behind the ebb and flow of life. Life is inclusive, meaning it includes all. What we might judge as negative or unnecessary or unwanted must have a purpose. When we can relinquish and release our hold on our judgments, we are set free. Didn't the master teacher Jesus the Christ tell us in Matthew 5:38 and 39, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also." Jesus was a teacher of love, pure and simple, and that, in my opinion, is at the core or essence of all. Love is the cosmic glue that creates, transmutes, and is the basic wholeness of life. Say with me, I soften my perspective this day to judge with right judgment. I recognize and realize life is inclusive and whole. This sets me free to explore with childlike eyes and wonder. For this I am so grateful, and it is so. So let's go within for just a moment and get ourselves centered into this peace and into this presence of this loving being, breathing our breath, beating our hearts. Let us recognize and accept and honor that we are in and of and as this love. Feel that sense of unity. Feel that sense of wholeness with the one that is expressing as all. We are just going within, feeling very blessed, feeling very open, available and accessible for this Spirit to use us, to be living through us this day. And so in the next few moments, there will be a message that will be coming forth. Each of us will have ears to hear in our own way. And so just take a moment now to go within and ask, to be prepared, what is the message that my heart and my soul will be ready to hear this day? The temptation is, once we go into that stillness, listening for that still small voice. There's a tendency, at least for me, to want to stay there, to remain, to feel that ever sweetness of the presence. And so I know that each of us will do this in our own perfect way this day. And for now, we feel ever so blessed that God is in charge and all is well. I say thank you, Mother, Father, God, for this beautiful day that we have to live your life. I know this is the truth. I let this word go into the law, letting it reflect back in perfect order and timing, blessing it in every way, saying thank you, and together we say, and it is so. Amen. Well, this is the very merry month of May, isn't it? Oh my gosh, isn't that wonderful? And it's beautiful. Alpine's weather is absolutely perfect. And so this month I decided that as a theme I would like to use self-mastery. It's actually a course that we're teaching right now in the church through, of course, what everybody else is using, Zoom. And so our topic today, though, I wanted to concentrate on wholeness. This topic is very close to my heart. Every year, well, for many years now, consistently, we, at the end of the year and at the beginning of the next year, our church goes and looks at the 12 qualities of God. Well, I'm sure there's more than that, but that's what our list is, 12. And I ask everyone to look at that list this year, for the coming year, and pick a quality of God that really will emulate with you, that you want to get more associated with, that you want to bring out more in your life. And I remember in past years I have used peace, I have used freedom, of course love, power, order. Many people use order. But for me this year, it started out that I wanted wholeness. Wholeness, i.e. unity, kind of one and the same. And so I'm happy that I would get to talk about wholeness today because, again, I think that it is such a universal quality, essence that will help us so much in our humanness to live this life from a more joyous standpoint, from a more balanced standpoint, from a more allowing standpoint. If you look at the synonyms for wholeness, you will find completeness, entirety, totality, unity, fullness, and comprehensiveness. So in other words, nothing is left out. It includes all, the allness, the inclusivity. Oh, that's a good way to say it. There's nothing left out. When you look at all of the ways that life presents itself with the contrasts of the dark and the night, the dark and the sun, rather, the night and the day, up and down. I mean, it's go on forever in all the different comparisons. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna said, "Behold, Arjuna beheld the entire universe with its diverse aspects and processes in one." Arjuna beheld the entire universe with its diverse aspects and processes in one. That's what we're talking about today, is that even though life is all about contrast and diversity, that there is a oneness there that is beneath and in creating and holding everything together. And I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges for our human minds to get ourselves wrapped around, because we like to categorize, that little ego self, that separate self wants to categorize, it wants to label and fit into categories, everything about life. So, and as we as human beings also go through these levels of various experiences that we have. We have the mental, we have the emotional, we have the physical, and of course, we have the spiritual. Those are all part of our existence, part of how we are living this life on earth. Christian D. Larson wrote, "To establish life in the physical is to become a materialistic. There will be no consciousness of the finer things of existence, and the understanding of things in general will be one-sided. In consequence, the mind cannot see anything as it really is, and will make mistakes at every turn. To live in the mental world is to live in a world of abnormal feeling and misdirected imagination. True being cannot find the foundation in such a world. True being can be established only in the consciousness of truth, and the consciousness of truth can be gained only in the spirit. When life is established in the spiritual state, the physical ceases to be materialistic, and the mental ceases to be a troubled sea of conflicting emotions. Instead, the physical becomes an orderly expression of the pure, wholesome life of the soul, and the mental becomes a world of the richest thought, the most sublime feeling, and the highest mental enjoyment." So how do we get established? How do we get ourselves placed in this spiritual state? How do we soften our perspective so that we can see things from a broader perspective, from a larger perspective than just our individual state? I think one of the first things that it takes in order to develop that spiritual state seems pretty obvious, but I think it's really one of the first steps, and that is to have the intention to do it. Intention is one of the first things to have that spirit. I intend this day, every moment, to live in the spiritual state all the time. Paramahansa Yogananda said, "Pray a little, meditate a little, and think about God all the time." A lot of times I like to replace the word God with love. Meditate a little, think a little, but think of love all the time. Love and God are synonymous, in my opinion. And there's other ones that you can use as well, if somehow or another that word God gives you bristly, pricky things around it. Think about the divine, the beloved, energy, source, spirit, whatever works for you. But it's important for us to make the intention to be in that spiritual state and to have our eyes open, even when we're talking with someone, even with a conversation. Let yourself be aware to be the observer of what is going on, to step back a little bit. Brother Lawrence, who lived in the 1600s, the Catholic priest, said, "There is not in this life a kind of life more sweet and delightful than that of a continual walk with God. Those only can comprehend it who practice it and experience it." Joel Goldsmith talks about the experience. It's amazing when we can talk about these things, we can think about these things, we can read about these things, but unless we can embody them, unless we can experience them, we don't really know it. We can't really have any fathom of it. So once you sense your idea, your intention to be in this state, what's the next step that I think that is required? I think the next step required is that of discipline. And it's actually hidden in both Paramahansa Yogananda's and Brother Lawrence's quotes. Think about God all the time and a continual walk with God. So you do it all the time. That's your intention and that's your discipline. It takes disciplining. It takes effort. It takes remembering. Not just when you feel like it. Not just, when it suits you. Not so that, when I remember. Do it enough so that it's a pattern. So that it's a habit. As I wrote in the thought for the week, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the movie Notting Hill with Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, please avail yourself of it. You will totally be an enjoyment of it. And there's lots of zingers, lots of wonderful quotes in that movie. But the one that I was relating to today was where, and Julia Roberts is like this really very, very famous actress. And she somehow or another runs into Hugh Grant, who just owns a little bookshop. And they get together, they're in his apartment, and the paparazzi discover that she's there. So they're clamoring at the door, with their flash bulbs going off and all this stuff. And Hugh Grant's roommate answers the door in his underwear and stands there just, posing and so forth. It's really hilarious. But Julia Roberts, when she sees what is going on with the media, is horrified. And so they, that the door closes and and she's screaming at him. It's like, my gosh, this is horrible, horrible. The horriblest thing could happen in the world. And Hugh Grant's just going, what do you mean? This isn't that horrible. And she delivers this line that, of course, I'm not any Julia Roberts, but she just delivers this line so perfectly. She goes, it's all about perspective. All about perspective. Because he's coming from a different angle into what she's coming from. She's living a totally different life than what he is. And it just makes me recognize how each and every person, based on our background, based on our experiences, we are all going to be coming from different events that happen in life with our own perspective. But how do we broaden that perspective? How do we soften that perspective? I think it really comes down to judgment. How do we judge something? The Course in Miracles defines forgiveness as seeing that what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. Ooh, it's about perspective, isn't it? There's a song that I have sung over the years, for many, many years, and Scott Calixtine, who is now known as Scott Grace, wrote this song. And I love the chorus of it. I guess it's called the chorus of it. And I sing it many times. And I'd like to share it with you now. Now, he wrote it as let me. And I have changed it a little bit to say, yes, I. So it goes like this. It goes, yes, I see with the eyes of God. Yes, I love with the heart of God. Yes, I breathe with the breath of God. Yes, I live in the love of God. Or change it up. Yes, I see with the eyes of love. Yes, I love with a heart of love. Yes, I breathe with a breath of love. Yes, I live in the love of God. When we can see with the eyes of God, our perspective is broader. Our perspective is more willing to be supple, to be open, to see the unity, to see the wholeness, to see the otherness as there as well. When we can look at ourselves and know that I am love in expression, that my perspective is that I am doing the best I can, as is everyone else on this planet. Everyone, no matter where they are, what they're doing, from their consciousness, they are doing their very best. And so we allow that. I believe that when we allow wholeness to be at the stead of our being, to be at the foundation of what we are more allowing to just let what is be, to relinquish this stronghold that we have on the way I want it, or the way it's right, or the way it's supposed to be. Take a minute this coming week, continually allow yourself to walk with God, to walk with love, to embody this wholeness that we are. Leave nothing out. Jesus the Christ, I said, as I said in the thought for the week, if someone comes at you, turn the cheek. Be allowing to not be so judgmental. I wanted to share with you one of the readings, again, from Opening Doors Within, Eileen Cady. This is a channel type of work. I think it fits with what we're talking about today. It is not easy to turn the other cheek when someone hits out at you in either word or deed. The immediate reaction is to hit back, but here is where reactions have to be watched, and with the greatest care, and where self-control and complete selflessness have to be put into practice. There's that discipline again. Those souls who have not learned self-discipline will give back as good as they get and feel justified in doing so. Then they will wonder why there is so much chaos and confusion in the world. They are so blind, they cannot see that until they have learned to change their whole outlook and start to love their neighbor as themselves, they cannot hope to change what is going on in the world. The more love and goodwill there is, the quicker will change come. But it all starts in you. Therefore, the sooner you realize it, the sooner will changes take place all around you, and so out into the world. Why not start doing something about it now? Start doing something about it. Set your intention. Be disciplined. Have that desire initially, every day, every moment, to see with the eyes of God, to love with the heart of God, to breathe in the breath of love and God, to step back, be able to see the wholeness and the unity, and to know that yes, all is well. And it is so. Amen. Namaste.